The fragrance of selfless love that has drawn the world into one family. The truth of an eternal message that has been revealed through every act and word. The fulfillment in service that has been taught by relentless sacrifice. The Lord's own life is indeed His message.
Sai Ram, and a hearty welcome to our viewers from all over the world. We are indeed grateful to Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, whom we lovingly refer to as Swami, for blessing us and giving us here in Prashanti Nilayam the privilege of presenting to you a special 30-part serial which will be seen all over the world, entitled The Message of the Lord. We all love our beloved Swami and never fail to hail him as the perfect embodiment of pure and unsullied love. We praise his university, his hospitals, the various drinking water projects, and whenever possible, we also participate in various service activities undertaken to spread his love and message. All that is laudable, of course, but how many of us can truly say that we really understand Swami's teaching and what it means to the future of humanity as a whole? More importantly, how conscious are we that Swami has come not only to give his message but to actually live it? If only humanity were to take his message more seriously in all its aspects, it could save itself from the disaster it faces in the shape of climate change, terrorism, mass poverty and whatnot. If only we are aware that Swami's teachings and message that he has been giving tirelessly for over the past 70 years, literally non-stop, can actually usher in an era of world peace and global harmony. However, even if you're not familiar with all this, there is no cause for worry, because starting today, we're launching this special teleseries which would help you know what you might have missed thus far. And when we are through with this, we are certain that you will be convinced that Swami's message can truly save us and the whole world at large. You would also realize that his message is the most precious gift that Swami has given humankind for now and forever.
Today is the 20th of October in the year 2010, or as we say in India, 2010. Exactly 70 years ago, the message we shall be presenting to you was formally unveiled for the first time. That unveiling was done in what was then British India, in a small town named Uravakonda, in what was then called Madras Presidency. And the one who revealed the message was a small 14-year-old boy named Sathya Raju. Earlier that morning, Sathya left for school as usual, carrying his bag, complete with books and notebooks. However, after going some distance, he returned, flung his bag aside and announced to his startled elder brother and sister-in-law that he was no longer their Sathya and that he was leaving home, family and school for good in order to serve humanity. Leaving his brother in a sort of shell-shocked condition, Sathya then went to a nearby garden and sat on a rock there while a small crowd gathered. After a while, Sathya led the crowd with a small bhajan that we all know, and which of course has not only become justly famous, but also marks the curtain raiser on the Sri Sathya Sai avatar, the incarnation of the divine in this Kali age. All that happened on 20th October 1940. To appreciate the significance of that event, we need to go way back to the year 1926, to the small and little-known hamlet called Puttaparthi. Here in this house in Puttaparthi, in the early hours of 23rd November 1926, was born a little boy, the same boy whom we saw earlier. This boy, whose full name was Sathya Raju, was the grandson of one Kondamaraju. His father was Pedda Venkamaraju, while his mother bore the name Ishwaramma. The Rajus were no doubt poor, but their moral stature was so high that all of them, Patriarch Kondamaraju in particular, commanded great respect amongst everyone in the village, both the rich and the poor. It was clear right from birth that there was something most unusual and extraordinary about young Sathya. In age and size, he was just another boy, but in all other respects, he was different. He was mature, far beyond his age, and had a mystical and divine aura about him. Particularly noteworthy was his deep sense of compassion. Poor though his family was, he would readily serve food to the hungry. When his mother said that they barely had enough food for the family, Sathya would reply that when the beggar ate, it was the same as him eating the food. Understandably, Ishwaramma was baffled, but she began to sense that Sathya was different. As a young lad, Sathya gathered boys like himself and formed a bhajan group that not only became the talk of the town, but also evoked great admiration amongst the villagers. Soon it was time to go to school, and since there was no school in the Puttaparthi of those days, Sathya first attended school in the neighbouring village Bukkapatnam, having to walk several kilometres every day. Sathya proved to be such a brilliant student that his elder brother, Seshammaraju, insisted that young Sathya come with him to a town called Kamalapuram to study in the school where Seshamma was receiving training to be a teacher. And so Sathya went to Kamalapuram to stay with his brother and study in the school there. Life in Kamalapuram was hard, with young Sathya being burdened heavily with a lot of household work. His daily chore included bringing drinking water from a distant well, which was the only well that supplied potable water. As in Bukkapatnam, Sathya excelled in school, becoming the favorite of both teachers and students as well. In a few years, once Seshammaraju completed his training in Kamalapuram, he moved to Uravakonda to join in the high school there as a teacher, and he took Sathya along with him. Once again, Sathya excelled in school, but early in 1940, he suddenly began to act as if he had lost interest in studies. One thing led to another, and finally, as we saw earlier, on 20th of October 1940, he declared that the world was his home, that humanity was henceforth his family, and that his entire life would henceforth be dedicated to the service of humanity. When news of this reached his parents back home, they both were shocked and rushed immediately to Uravakonda to plead with Sathya to change his mind. That, of course, Sathya declined to do. But he did agree to return to Puttaparthi and further gave Mother Ishwaramma the word that Puttaparthi would be the permanent headquarters for his mission. Despite its remoteness, News about a saintly boy with miraculous powers quickly spread, and slowly but surely, people came from many places to Puttaparthi to have his darshan. There being no space for this in the house in which he was born, for a while, Swami used the adjacent building, which was the residence of his neighbor Karnam Subbamma, who was almost his second mother. It soon became necessary to have a separate accommodation, which was set up in a piece of land donated by Karnam Subbamma. Thus came into existence the famous Pata Mandiram, or the Old Mandir. Many other remarkable leelas or miracles that Baba performed during this phase of his avatarhood. Typically, these experiences were given to devotees in the evening, when he took them out to the sands of the Chitravati river for an extended bhajan and chat session. Not many had the good fortune of seeing them, but among the blessed few who did, some have recorded for posterity what they saw. One such is Mrs. Vijaya Kumari, who at the time she witnessed these incredible leelas of God was a young girl. Those leelas made a deep impression on her, and even now, 60 years later, she is able to relive every single one of those precious moments. Here is Mrs. Vijay Kumari's description of a truly awe-inspiring leela that she witnessed during the Pata Mandiram days. One day in 1947, we went with Swami to the Chitravati river. All of a sudden, he disappeared from our midst. We then heard his voice which said, "I am here on the hill, and I am going to now show you all Surya Darshan, the vision of God as Sun." We began to wonder. It is past 6 in the evening and the sun has already set. And now Swami is saying he would show us the sun. That was when we began to laugh. Just then we began to see a pink light behind Swami. Quickly pink turned into red and we began to feel very hot. The heat made us sweat profusely and was unbearable. At the same time, the scene we saw was beautiful, indeed beyond description. Finding the heat unbearable, we loudly complained, "Swami, it is too hot." He replied, "Is that so?" And then slowly the heat began to decrease when Swami suddenly announced, "I am now going to show you the moon." Even as he uttered those words, the sky behind him gradually began to turn silvery white, and the air started to cool rapidly. Soon we began to feel very cold and started shivering. Our teeth began to chatter and we screamed, "Swami, it is too cold!" Taking pity on us, Swami made the chill disappear, after which he said, "I am now going to show all of you the third eye. Watch carefully and don't look here and there." As we stood there watching his full form, we suddenly saw only his face, huge in size, filling the entire sky. Even as we were watching all this with awe and wonder, an orifice appeared in between his eyebrows, from which flew giant sparks and huge flames. Instead of being lost in this extraordinary spectacle of divine glory, we now became very worried and anxious as we could see only Swami's face. We began to wonder, what has happened to Swami's body? Have the flames harmed Swami? That was the thought uppermost in our minds. Meanwhile, many people fell down and some even fainted, but I did not realize it then. Suddenly, in a flash, the entire spectacle came to an abrupt end. The sky was back to normal as if nothing had ever happened. while Swami was with us on the Chitravati sands. He then asked why some people had fallen down. We said that we did not know the reason. Swami then created sacred ash or vibhuti and applied it to everyone's forehead. Having done that, he said, "Come on, let us return to the mandir." We started walking back, but most of us were quite unsteady and wobbling. Back in the mandir, with much love, Swami said, "Today I have granted you the blessing of Trinetra Darshan, the vision of the third eye for which you all have been pining in many previous births. What I have shown you is not even 1,000th of the full glory. And what little I showed made many of you to fall down, unable to bear the power of that sight." That was when some kind of normalcy started returning amongst us. Word quickly began to spread, and many took the trouble of coming all the way to Puttaparthi to have the darshan of young Baba, despite all the difficulties of reaching that place. This included some of the elite of big cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad and Madras, now called Chennai. Indeed, even the Maharani of Mysore came several times, although she had to walk across the sands of the Chitravati river, since there was no direct road as yet to Puttaparthi. Not merely that, in response to invitations from these people, Swami started visiting various cities, and thus it is that he went to Madras, Bangalore, Mysore, Hyderabad and the hill station Ooty. Elder brother Seshamaraju, already much disappointed by his brother's decision to drop out of school, was now deeply concerned. Not yet fully aware of Baba's divinity, he began to worry about the impact of the attention that his younger brother was receiving, especially in the press. In May 1947, Seshama wrote to Swami conveying his anxiety. Shortly thereafter, on 25th May, Swami wrote a reply. It was supposed to be a reply to his elder brother, but in reality, it was a prophetic message to humanity. In that letter, Baba says, in part, as the proverb says, "It is only the fruit-laden tree that receives the shower of stone from the passers-by. The good always provoke the bad into calumny. The bad always provoke the good into doing more good. This is the nature of the world. One must be surprised if such things do not happen. People too have to be pitied rather than condemned. They do not know. They have no patience to judge correctly. They are too full of lust, anger and conceit to see clearly and know fully. So they write all sorts of things. If only they know, they would refrain from writing or talking like that. We too should not attach any value to such comments and take them to heart as you seem to do. Truth will certainly triumph someday. Untruth can never win. Untruth might appear to overpower truth, but its victory would fade away and truth would establish itself. I have a task to foster all mankind and ensure for all people lives full of ananda. I have a vow to lead all who stray away from the straight path again into goodness and save them. I am attached to a work that I love, to remove the suffering of the poor and grant them what they lack. When I am thus engaged in my beneficial task, how can my name be ever tarnished as you apprehend? I would advise you not to heed to such absurd talk. Mahatmas do not acquire greatness through someone calling them so. They do not become small just because some call them small. Authenticity will soon win. No one can comprehend my glory, whosoever it may be, whatever be the method of inquiry, and no matter how long the attempt. you will yourself see the full glory unfolding in the coming years. Devotees must have patience and forbearance. I am not concerned, nor am I anxious that these facts should be made known. I have no need to write these words. I wrote them because I felt that you will be pained if I do not reply. Thus, yours, Baba. It is important to note the date, 25th May 1947. India was still being ruled by the British. In fact, right then, discussions were going on in London concerning what the British should do about the future status of India. And here was Baba, not yet 21, promising to foster all mankind and declaring that the world would one day see his glory unfolding. Who would have believed that then? Actually, very few bothered about all this, since their focus was entirely on the present, that is, the love that Baba showered. However, avatars never forget their mission. Thus it was that looking ahead, Swami decided to bring the curtain down on the Leela phase for which the Patha Mandiram was the stage. A new mandir was needed that, in time, would become his global and indeed universal headquarters. And the foundation for that headquarters was laid in 1948. On 23rd November 1950, that is 60 years ago, when Swami was 25, the new mandir was inaugurated and Swami moved into it, living in a small room upstairs. Thus began a totally new era in which the new mandir, named Prashanti Nilayam, or the abode of peace, underwent successive transformations over the years to present the wonderful appearance it has today, even as Swami's glory also grew exactly as he had forecast way back in May 1947. The story goes that when Swami took Mother Ishwaramma to show the new mandir as it was in its final stages, Mother shook her head and asked, "Why do you need such a big hall? Do you think you would ever get enough devotees to fill this entire hall?" Swami smiled and simply led Mother to the door. Standing there, he pointed to the far distance where the Gopuram now stands and said, "You would live to see the day when there are crowds at least up to that, and indeed even more." We do not know whether Mother Ishwaramma was convinced at that point of time, but we do know that she did live to see Swami's glory becoming global, even as memories of the Patha Mandiram became amazing living memories for the blessed few who were fortunate to be a part of that era. That is the way it was with Krishna. An ecstatic past gave way to a majestic future. And so it has proved to be in the case of Swami also.
We shall follow up on that part of the story tomorrow in our next episode. Meanwhile, thank you for being with us, and we hope that you enjoyed our presentation. Do join us again tomorrow for the continuation of this serial. Jai Sai Ram.